I'm Bob Colton. We're continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools. Betsy Foster, welcome back.
Thank you.
How did the fall go?
Fantastic.
Tell us about it.
It was wonderful. All 80 kids did an amazing job. It was even better than I could have ever hoped. And we all had such a great time, and the audience loved it. Flying effects were amazing.
And this is Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka, yeah, Willy Wonka. Yeah, thanks to the generous donations of the pilots in town, we were able to fly Willie and Grandpa Joe, and that was amazing. And our darling little Oompa Loompas look so cute, all 32 of them.
Well, now what made it so successful?
I think the kids had a lot of fun working on it, and it was just a really fun show. The audience was really excited to come see it, and it was just, everyone knows Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
So it's kind of reliving your childhood, whether you're 5 or 85.
And you had big crowds.
We did, huge crowds. It was really exciting to almost fill the house.
And so parents must really be involved because they're in those seats and you've got kids on stage. Yeah. That's a pretty good formula for success.
It is. It's huge, and it's trickled over to our next production, too.
We'll talk about that.
Right. We just started working on Alice in Wonderland. When did we audition? Last week. And we have 52 kids in the show, and I've never had that many come out for a winter play.
But you must feel great.
It's amazing. Yeah, we were going to try to cut it down to 17, but so many came out, and so many were new and wonderful that we just said, let's keep them all.
That's
and
great.
Let's have a giant cast and make more work for me.
And a bigger crowd.
Bigger crowd, yeah. So it'll be, it's like 4 to 5 times more than a standard play cast. So we should have really good audience numbers, which will be exciting.
So when fans come to see Alice in Wonderland, what should they expect?
It's going to be different. It's a traditional story, so the script is based off of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, so it's kind of a little bit of everything everyone loves. But I've put my own twist on it. We're doing abstract watercolor projections for the backgrounds, which is something we've never done before.
What is that?
Well, I'm creating these abstract watercolor paintings that we're going to project on our giant white cyc, and it's going to be, so they become these 50-foot, 25 by 50-foot paintings, roughly. They look really neat. And then that'll give us a whole new lighting effect. And then the costumes, we're doing it steampunk. So Alice is Alice, because she's not part of Wonderland. Yeah. But anyone in Wonderland will be their typical character, but with an 1890s to 19-teens clothing style with the steampunk edge. So the Industrial Revolution, gears and cogs and chains, and just kind of give it a mechanical edge. It's really popular right now. The kids are excited.
How cool. Now, how'd you come up with that idea?
It's really trendy. No, I thought, it's kind of been popping up little bits here and there on Pinterest, and the kids had mentioned it over the years, and I never really was like, what are you talking about? And then the State Art Education Conference has a theme every year for our big Saturday night gala, and that was steampunk. So I just kind of all gelled, and I said Wonderland should be steampunk.
So the kids will love it?
They love it, yeah. They're so excited. Every adult is like, what?
So will the audience get it?
I think so. I mean, it'll feel like another world, which Wonderland is. You know, it's her dream. It's Alice's dreams, and you know, it gives it a little bit of an edge, but in a really nice family appropriate way. You know,
last time we talked about all of the arts and programs that you were doing, but we didn't talk much about you as a teacher.
No, that other thing I do 8 hours a day.
So talk about that.
I am the high school art program. I teach all the high school art classes, and it's really exciting because with the schedule change last year from 4 blocks to 5 periods, I was able to completely revamp the program. So we added in digital photography and 3-dimensional sculpture and AP studio art, which just takes everything to the next level. The kids get more experience with more media. The advanced kids can take a 4th level to really push them towards that college level. And many of our kids do go on and study some form of art or some creative outlet somehow. So that college credit for that AP class really comes in handy.
And Betsy, you have to know all this?
Oh yes, of course.
So how did you get enough knowledge to be able to share with kids, Charlotte? That's really exciting.
Well, I'm really lucky. My parents got me involved in the arts at a very young age, and I've been doing all of them since about age 3. And then when I went to college, I actually went as a fine arts major. I didn't go for teaching initially. So I got to take more studio classes and kind of have a broader range than a typical art ed major. And then I went back to school for the teaching side of it.
Do you think that's made you a better teacher?
I think so, yeah. I think because I was an artist prior to being a teacher, I can keep those two going. Not that if you just went for straight art education, you would be at a disadvantage necessarily. You wouldn't also be an artist, but any chance I get when the kids don't need, one-on-one help, I sit down and kind of model good artistic production and, get them excited and constantly say, that's a great idea, I'm going to incorporate that in this piece and use them as inspiration.
And you're the art teacher
Mm-hmm.
in Charlotte, and I would imagine when you were studying the arts, people said, well, gosh, will that ever be a job? And it really is.
It is, yeah. It's such a fulfilling job because I never really intended to go into teaching. I never really, I don't know, my parents were very supportive and just kind of were like, she'll figure it out. She's a smart kid. She'll figure it out. And I stumbled into teaching and realized it was sharing your passion with kids, and since my passion is art and theater, this is just such a perfect fit.
Well, talk about that passion, because you really do have it as a teacher.
Yeah, it's important.
And so what is it that you love about the arts?
I think it's the personal expression, the fact that I can give kids all the tools and techniques and show them the whole history of it, and then they can put their own spin on it. And it kind of helps any student, whether they're, an athlete or kind of, an outcast or, wherever they fall in the spectrum of high school, they can all kind of find their own creative outlet. I mean, they try it all. I mean, the very beginning classes, they try everything. So if they struggle with drawing, I'm like, well, maybe you're a painter. And then we get into painting, and then many of them find their niche there, and if they're still kind of having a hard time, I'm like, maybe you're a sculptor. And then they get into sculpture, and that tends to be where, the ones who don't quite really enjoy the 2D world thrive.
And I would imagine you get a lot of energy from the young people.
Oh, I do. Oh my gosh, they're so much fun. And I think just the classroom atmosphere in art is nice, because we have conversations, and I get to know them a lot, one-on-one, and really find out what their interests are, because they can talk and work at the same time, and I can handle the volume that it sometimes gets to.
And so how long have you been teaching in Charlotte?
This is my 9th year.
And so you've probably seen several families of kids come through your class.
It's really exciting. Siblings are never alike. Ever. And that's the most amazing. I never even assume if it's the last name, especially in Charlotte, because there's so many huge families and cousins and connections, which is great. But I never assume, and I'm like, oh, you're so-and-so's sister. Never would have guessed. Because their art is so different, and their personalities are so different, which is so fun.
And so how do you change? How do you adapt to different personalities every day?
I really try to get to know the kids as fast as possible, because you kind of need to know who you can really push and say, you're just not quite cutting it on this piece, start over. The ones that you need to kind of be like, no, that's really great. Maybe we could try a little bit of this, and kind of get to know them fast so that I can see how far I can push them and challenge them.
Hey, I have to ask you about the whole world of the critic that we've created, because sometimes critics turn kids off, or say they say that you didn't do that right, so young people stop. How do you encourage them to continue in something that is, so personal as the arts?
Actually, this year I had this whole revelation last year in my own art, where you constantly fear you're going to ruin it, or you're so afraid of ruining it, you never can even start. But if you don't start, you've got nothing. So I decided to start this fail big policy, and I have this giant sign in my room that says fail big, and I'm like, push yourselves, experiment. If you totally screw it up and your work is a disaster, you've learned something, and that will carry over to the next piece. So just don't be afraid. Whatever crazy idea you have, try it. Because what is the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
So the piece is ruined. Who cares?
And so kids have embraced this?
They have. They love it. Yeah, they're constantly like, fail big, go for it. It took them a little while. I had to be all excited and celebrate failure, but they love it now. And then actually, we had the other day we had just kind of a filler project, and we got all of the failed. I wouldn't let them throw anything away. Any failed project, so we had to hang on to it for another day. So we had the whole pile of everyone's failed projects, and they had to find someone's failure and give it new life, and they loved it. At first they gave me crazy looks. They were like, what is she talking about? But they often give me those looks. And it was great. The kids loved it, and it wasn't their piece, so they felt, like they could, who cares what happens. So if some of them became failures again, and that's okay. Someone else will take it further, and they just really opened up, and they've been so much more expressive and so fearless, and just, giving each other feedback, and the conversations of like, hey, try this, and maybe this will work, and they do. It's really revolutionized the entire program.
Do you think communication and the arts kind of have a hand-in-hand role? Because kids have to talk to each other, and you share knowledge, and so that's kind of a challenge, isn't it? You don't just give a kid some paints and say go work in the corner.
Yeah, like you really need to engage them in the conversation, and especially draw the kids who are more reticent to talk, out. But they all, by the time they finish at least one art class, if not several, they've kind of this own little hub of community within the high school. And
really,
yeah, it's really great. Like kids who would not, because it's 9th through 12th grade in every class pretty much, so they're interacting with kids they might never have before. And generally, much like the theater, they kind of create this own little safe zone where they feel like they can talk to someone they might not necessarily associate with at lunch or in other classes.
Well, in Charlotte Public Schools, you are the arts.
I am. For the high school. There are, many great other arts people, but for the visual arts end of the theater, I am the arts.
So talk about the thought, people are starting to talk about a concept of an arts academy or a program. Is there, obviously it's in development, but what are your thoughts about that now?
It's exciting. And being included in it is really exciting. I hope theater is one day as well. But it's just, especially with the addition of the AP Studio Art class, it's just a way to create further acknowledgement for high achieving students. And maybe you're not an AP student in a traditional way, but you can be involved in the visual arts end of the Arts Academy and find a great way to get high recognition beyond that. So the kids have to, my end of things, they've got to take all the art classes offered, which is tricky with scheduling. And then they have to also seek out opportunities outside of it. They've got to find ways to exhibit their work or different workshops to be involved in or private lessons they can take or contests or some way to kind of go beyond the walls of Charlotte High School to kind of get their art out there.
And that really keeps them involved in other aspects of education.
It does, and it gets them to market. I mean, they've got to make connections, especially in any realm that they're going to go into. They need to kind of find ways to reach out and find other people to connect with who share their passion or can help teach them something that maybe I can't, or I don't know.
And so, do you think they're connecting in the classroom? Do they connect on social media as well? They connect in productions and all of that?
Yeah, they're posting their stuff online all the time and taking pictures of their stuff, and the iPads make it really easy to do that. They're constantly getting their work out there.
So you must have this constant challenge of jumping a bigger hurdle because you've gone from Flying Willy Wonka to Alice in Wonderland. What could possibly be next?
Well, the spring production will be The Great Gatsby.
Oh wow!
Which is it's a tough one. We've done some dramas, but not quite that realm of drama. So that will be fun.
And what was the thought behind that?
I love The Great Gatsby.
Just because you love it.
I love it. Yeah, it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite books. It's when I discovered there was a script. Before this, the seniors for this year are really strong actors, as well as the many students who are in the grades beneath them, and I didn't want to wait a year to do it for the winter play.
So it was kind of the right time.
It was the right time, yeah. Yeah, and we do kind of a black box style theater in the spring show. It's just all very different and more intimate. And Gatsby is kind of a nice one to pull the audience a little closer.
And the folks in Charlotte have really supported the arts in the schools.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that, not only in the CPAC Center, but also in the schools. And they want kids to be engaged and involved, and it looks like you're really doing that.
Yeah, Live often has some of our artwork on display, and I know the Teen Center downtown is looking to display artwork, and we've had work on display at the Courthouse Square Museum before, and lots of those community members come to our events and find different ways to help with them in some way, donating set pieces and furniture and stuff for shows. The Prey family's always been really great about that, and there's just a huge support team in the community. Well,
what do you think the big hurdle there is? Do you think kids just are afraid of failure sometimes, or trying new things, or reaching?
Sometimes, yeah. I noticed that, with Alice it was interesting, because there were kids who I knew were really excited to audition, but who didn't. So when I saw them the next day, I was like, why didn't you audition? I'm like, I was too scared. I'm like, do you still want to be in the show? And since we didn't cut anybody, they were like, yeah. I'm like, okay, great, you're in the show. And they were like, wait, what? like, you're in if you want to be in, and they really loved that. So,
well, that creates a great community.
It does, yeah, and most of the cast is new. Kids who've never done shows before, and most of them are freshmen, which is exciting, because by the time they're seniors, that's 8 shows later. That'll be phenomenal. It'll
give you an opportunity to really see who develops over time.
It will, yeah. It's always so fun to see them grow.
And so I want you to talk a little bit more about the production, because every time, kids and young people have a lot of, internet technology or entertainment technology, but now for theater, you really do have to give them a show.
You do.
To make sure that they're engaged in watching, but also engaged in performing. So you keep, jumping higher hurdles, don't you?
Yes, yeah, you try to. I mean, they can't change the channel.
They can't change this channel.
They can't, the audience can't change the channel, and the kids can't just go off and do something else, or like they're in it and they've got to commit to it. It's 2.5 long months, and that's a lot of work and a lot of hours, and so you've got to kind of convince them that no matter how big or small their part is, they matter, and that the time is worth it, and have great fun when they're there. Alice has already been a little mad in the crazy sense, but it's good. They're having a great time.
When you look at other school districts, certainly not in Charlotte, but when in other school districts where they think about reshaping their arts or music or even other educational programs, what kind of advice would you give them as they think about?
Maybe they're trying to grow it.
Yeah.
I think that as many students as you can get involved as possible, and kind of finding a place for everybody, whether it's getting them involved backstage or getting them involved in set painting or construction or on stage, or just convincing that really shy kid that they need to give it a chance, and just get the kids involved, because once they're involved they'll get hooked, and then their program will grow and the community support will pour in, because you'll have more and more parents and grandparents and neighbors coming to see their shows or concerts or whatever, and it's just such a nice place to be, just a nice family to be be a part of.
Well, talk about how kids have developed. Do you have an example, or do you have a kid in mind that you can tell us who's sort of gone through the program over years and maybe have emerged from their shell and really used it as a learning, growing opportunity?
Yeah, we have, there's quite a few. One of our students, Josh Holliday, graduated, is he a junior in college now? He's at Michigan State, and he never really considered theater. He's a band kid. I didn't know he could sing. I actually didn't even know him. I needed student volunteers and ran into this kid in the hallway who was really friendly, and I volunteered to help. And I was like, "You should do a musical in the fall." And I was like, maybe I will. And then he came out and he became our Joseph for Joseph Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Very first show, nailed the lead, was phenomenal. Worked so well with the kids. And that was his junior year. And then continued to do the shows, stuck with the musicals through his senior year, and now is a business major at at Michigan State University, has been interning at the Wharton Center, doing tons of stuff with them. He's actually their camera guy to do their little student promo videos for whatever major show is coming up. So like for Flashdance, he was running around doing craziness. I don't know, something, he was in leather pants, I don't know. It's been really fun. But he's gone down to Nashville and done internships there. He was involved in the Courthouse Museum Square when he was here, so he also reached out. He's just in everything. And he's auditioned for their shows. He was in, what show did they do? I want to say Hello Dolly. It must have been Hello Dolly. Yeah, they did Hello Dolly last spring. And
so even though there's a lot of opportunity.
There's a lot of opportunity. Yeah, he's using it in his business end because he kind of wants to do entertainment business. But he has said he never would have gone that route if he hadn't kind of gotten conned, convinced into being in that one musical, and then finding out he loved it so much.
And so what would you like to do in the future?
Oh my gosh.
For the arts program. Go ahead. Now's your chance.
Now's my chance. I want to see it keep growing. I would love to have more financial support. Is always good, even though it's tough times in schools right now. That would help us take the program even bigger. I would love to see theater become a bigger part of the curriculum, if we could do it. We do have a theater class that Sarah Rolfs teaches that's phenomenal, but if we could add a technical theater class to that, or like a stagecraft or set construction, or because we have so many kids interested in that realm. And then I'm currently working on building bridges with MSU and LCC and anyone else in the community, like around the surrounding area, because we're in the perfect location to come in and work with the kids and have regular workshops and do a stage makeup workshop and a stage combat and just build into this giant monstrosity that someone else helps me run.
Well, Betsy, I know you will be successful with all the energy that you have. And thank you. I'm Bob Colt, and we'll continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.